Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today I'm reacting to a comment that gets said or talked about a lot, but not often specifically made. I got this comment on my TikTok, and while the comment has since been deleted, I feel like it's worth talking about because this person is not the only one who has said this and who thinks this to be true. So that particular comment is, TikTok made my wife gay. It was posted by a man who is married to a woman who had since come out as a lesbian and had left him for a woman. Anytime a marriage breaks up, it can be difficult, and I understand that, but I wanted to take this opportunity in particular to talk about the larger scale conversation that has been happening since about 2020 about TikTok and gay TikTok and straight TikTok and all that kind of stuff, all of the different sides of TikTok and what they mean, and whether or not an app has the ability to turn someone's sexuality from straight to gay. Does it? My simple answer is no. An app does not have the ability to change someone's sexuality from straight to gay. What this app does, on a scale that I've never seen before in my lifetime anyway, is it learns someone's likes and preferences and caters their algorithm to that. And so that is how so many of us find ourselves on one side of TikTok and then come over to another side of TikTok. But the underlying issue here is that with the pandemic and then the rise in homemade content, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, social media content went on the rise because that's the only way people could connect with one another. And when that happened, we did find many people coming to terms with a different sexual orientation or a different identity than they thought they had prior. But that's not the fault of any app or any content creator, period. That's not how it works. I would submit there are two very specific things that are probably happening in the life of this man's wife and or in the lives of other people, specifically women who find themselves in this situation. Number one, maybe the wife was always attracted to women and didn't have an opportunity to explore that or understand what that meant for her because of heteronormativity. Heteronormativity is so real in all of our lives that all of these people who put together bills like Florida's HB 1557, aka the Don't Say Gay bill, that bill, they never considered the idea that when we say we're not going to talk about sexual orientation, we're also not going to talk about straight couples. It never occurred to them, and the reason it never occurred to them was because they assumed that everyone is straight unless told otherwise. So the normal things we can totally talk about. It's the weird things that we can't talk about. Huge offense, by the way. So the lack of exposure to queer content likely had a lot to do with this woman not realizing that it was even an option for her to be queer. And by the way, just because she left you for a woman doesn't actually make her gay. It means that she's part of the LGBTQIA+ community. That's all that means. The assumptions that come when someone is in a same gender relationship that then makes them gay is a false assumption. It's actually pretty damaging and pretty limiting to the queer community as a whole. I can understand why for some cis het people that's their default assumption, and I'm just trying to dispel that because that's not how it works. But the bottom line is this man's wife left him for a woman and he's upset about it. Yeah. Okay, I'm sure he is, because anybody whose spouse leaves them for somebody else is probably going to be upset about it. Again, not the app's fault. That speaks to issues in their relationship or issues that his wife did not know that she had going on inside of her. So it's extremely possible that the lack of representation in media, the lack of representation in maybe her life in general, had not led her to the point where she could ever even entertain that being with a woman was an option. So the normalization of that through an app or through social media, specifically during the pandemic, specifically when you're kind of trapped inside of what you and your partner and your family is and trying to figure out kind of how you got there, that caused a lot of people to really take stock. It's like the perfect storm where they have access and also are taking stock of things. Some people made some really tough decisions. The weirdest thing about this, in my opinion, is that in reality, what so many conservatives are saying is actually true. If you watch queer content, you are probably more likely to come out as queer. But here's the difference. The content didn't make you queer, because if it did, reading straight romance novels for my entire life would have made me marry a man. Right? But that's not what happened. So exposure to a specific orientation in content, books, movies, news, whatever it is, exposure to it isn't going to make someone that way, but it is likely to help people to understand that being that way can be acceptable, and being that way can actually be a valid way for you to be. It can encourage somebody to be who they really are inside, and can actually stop the damage that happens to families when someone who's grown up in heteronormativity and cisnormativity is confronted with the reality of who they actually are. And at that point, whether they leave or they stay, someone is hurting. How is that a better option? Okay, the other option is one that I don't hear talked about a lot, and I'm just going to put it out there. This might not be the case for his ex-wife, but it occurs to me that many women who found themselves on that side of TikTok and were intrigued by the women they were seeing there are maybe not actually attracted to them in a sexual way, in a way they want to have a relationship with another woman. But maybe they're attracted to the freedom that I have often seen. I don't know about you. There is a freedom that happens in someone when they divest themselves of all of the societal norms of sex and sexuality and understanding of who they're supposed to be based on what everyone else wants them to be. And when you just get rid of that and really own who you are, what you want out of life, and how you're going to get it, the power that comes from that is so strong you can feel it through a screen. You can see it in a content creator's content. You can see where someone has said, I'm not going to be locked in by these social norms anymore, and I'm just going to be who I am, and I'm going to own my sexuality, and I'm going to own my body. That's hot. Not always necessarily sexually hot, but that's hot, right? Maybe some of these women have spent so long in the idea that they have to suppress who they are due to the messages of purity culture, where they can't have sexual needs and they can't want things, and they're supposed to be demure and timid and not actually owning their sexuality as humans because the men might get scared by that. So when you see someone who's owning it, maybe not your type of sexuality, but is owning it, that's attractive. And maybe you want to be like that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gay. That doesn't mean that you're bi. That doesn't mean that you're interested in women as a woman. But it does mean that you are craving some sort of confirmation of worth of your sexuality and some sort of confirmation of your identity. And you can get that. You're allowed to have that. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to check out more about what purity culture has to say about women and who they're supposed to be, check out this video right here. And I will see you all next week. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.